Support WrestleTalk!
Support each other. Chris Jericho has had a very interesting relationship with WWE over the last several years. Up until 2017, he was considered a WWE lifer, a wrestler who would return to the promotion every few years after various stints being a TV presenter, or Dancing with the Stars competitor, or rock band frontman, or author, or cruise line operator, or kind of actor. Even after he returned to New Japan for his industry-changing Wrestle Kingdom 12 match with Kenny Omega, Jericho still maintained in interviews that he wouldn't wrestle for another promotion on North American soil. He has tremendous respect for Vince McMahon, and the United States is WWE's home turf. Not even a year later, Jericho was the biggest roster announcement for definitely US-based All Elite Wrestling. Since becoming its inaugural champion, Jericho has become not just one of AEW's top stars and ratings draws, but also one of the leading voices poking the WWE bear. Like how he congratulated Sasha Banks last month, while simultaneously pointing out AEW beat them in the all-important 18-49 demo, which is what advertisers care about most, 367,000 to 264,000. And now, following Rey Mysterio challenging Seth Rollins to an eye versus eye match at the horror show at Extreme Rules at AOL.com, Jericho has tweeted that WWE stole that idea from him and AEW. Eye for an eye match? You're welcome. AEW Dynamite, 12th of February 2020, with a graphic of the Jon Moxley vs Santana Solid Snake cosplay match, and his increasingly shade-throwing happy boss Tony Khan joined in, replying with the Spider-Man gif of Norman Osborn saying, "You know, I'm something of a scientist myself." At least WWE has somewhat tried to alter the stipulation, with WWE.com now explaining how the match actually works, where a winner can only be determined by extracting the opponent's eye. While this all seems in good fun, the AEW vs WWE feud has intensified in recent weeks, especially following MJF being the first person from either promotion to actually acknowledge they really are in a ratings war. This comes to a head tonight with Night 2 vs Great American Bash Night 2, but Triple H is still arguing NXT's 2-week TV special event, which was so hastily thrown together you can still see the old WWE logo underneath the NXT one slapped on top, that just so happens to run across the exact same 2 weeks as AEW's long-planned is purely coincidental, as he explained to Sports Illustrated. Almost all of these NXT storylines were headed where they are now. There was a gap, timing-wise, between In Your House and what will become the SummerSlam takeover, and you need a halfway point and a build. This is that halfway point, so it doesn't change our decision-making process. I don't counterbook, I book what's right for NXT. And it seems that booking what's right for NXT just kind of seems to mirror exactly what AEW are doing just a few hours later, as was seen last night with Tony Khan's announcement that in lieu of Brian Cage fighting Moxley for the AEW Championship, his manager Taz will instead make an announcement that Tony Khan guarantees will send shockwaves through the world of professional wrestling. Shockwaves? I mean, I know Cody loves WCW, but surely not, which NXT had a definitely not counter-booking response to just over an hour later. Thanks for your support on Patreon, Ryan B. Bad and Will Lamparty Landrum. On top of the huge Keith Lee vs Adam Cole winner takes it all main event, Robert Stone teased a new signing on Twitter shortly after Khan's own announcement. My secretary Harriet just sent the paperwork over for my huge new signing I'll be revealing tomorrow on NXT, baby. Can you feel it? The Robert Stone brand is on the rise. I know it. Elia knows it. The USA Network knows it. Shockwave-inducing announcement versus huge new signing announcement. Who wins? Easy answer. Evil Uno, who has tweeted the next stage in cinematic wrestling. There are enough cars in AEW wrestling canon to make a Wacky Races game. Evil Uno wants an AEW Wacky Races game. But Jericho and Khan aren't the only two AEW personnel who've been throwing shade at the E. Co-executive vice president Kenny Omega has also criticized the backstage atmosphere in the company. An old story about top New Japan star Kota Ibushi started doing the rounds again on Twitter yesterday after being shared by Sir Lariato, which described how Ibushi Ibushi conducted himself backstage in WWE when he was wrestling in the Cruiserweight Classic. The former New Japan star apparently went backstage sometime during the show. When Ibushi first went back there, he gave a high five to a big man. Out of all the people in the building, that big man turned out to be Vince McMahon, owner of WWE. Ibushi had no idea who he was, which made the staff really upset. Dave Meltzer reposted the tweet confirming the story is true, by the way, which prompted Ibushi's best friend and golden lover Kenny Omega himself to reply. Hard to believe, but yeah, some of the most talented wrestlers in the world aren't constantly walking on eggshells and scared shitless of their boss. It didn't stop WWE offering Ibushi a contract soon after, which he turned down, forcing the company to rebook the winner of the tournament. But while management might have been shocked at Ibushi's behavior, McMahon is reportedly high on one new main roster star. High because it's Matt Riddle, who appears to be perpetually Robert Stone. Last Friday's episode of SmackDown opened with Riddle explaining why he wrestles barefoot. Not because of his MMA past, but because he got frostbite on his foot as a kid and he still can't wear boots because it hurts. Which kind of sounds like a really lame superhero origin story. WrestlingNews.co is reporting that Vince loved the story so much when he heard it backstage, he booked it as the opening segment on SmackDown, and that Riddle is allowed to give more input for his promos than most, which is quite something when you consider how he's only just debuted on the main roster last month. And before that, it was rumoured he had various degrees of backstage heat with McMahon and Brock Lesnar for calling the Beast Incarnate and Goldberg out so much on Twitter. I suspect the reports of Riddle having heat in the past are actually planted stories by Paul Heyman as a way to build future matches. WrestlingNews.co also points out McMahon has had his eye on Riddle along with Keith Lee since last November's NXT Invasion storyline, where McMahon even specifically compared him to a young Shawn Michaels with that rebel mentality. Apparently, since moving to the main roster, Riddle has been great to work with and there's been no issues of backstage heat. Perhaps he'll soon win one of the many new title designs WWE are apparently set to debut soon. After a new United States Championship was unveiled on this week's Raw, which finally cleared up the confusion over who actually is the champion by just writing "Champion" in big letters across the front, Belt Van Dam on Twitter claims WWE have more new designs they're yet to use. Belt Van Dam actually revealed the new US title design all the way back in December, implying he knows his belts. And he's teased there are also new designs for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships potentially incoming, along with a new, larger version of the NXT Championship, which could come following the "Winner Takes It All" match tonight between Lee and Cole. Something else that's yet to be decided on is Kairi Sane's future with WWE. After it was reported last week she would be moving back to Japan to be with her husband following her contract shortly expiring, Alex McCarthy of TalkSport now claims that is far from set in Robert Stone, with the company intent on taking care of Sane, as her last concussion from Nia Jax on Raw has left her shaken. WWE will apparently offer her better money than she could get anywhere else in an attempt to keep her involved with the company, and it's believed she could be swayed. Whether that will involve a more backstage role as an ambassador for the potential NXT Japan or continuing to wrestle is unknown. WWE will now have to run those kind of big money deals past their new CFO, with former Etsy CFO Christina Salen being announced for the job yesterday. Salen took Etsy from $895 million in gross sales to $3 billion in 4 years, and she'll be replacing Frank Riddick, who was the interim CFO after Michelle Wilson and George Barrios were released from WWE at the beginning of this year, or in lockdown time, 17,000 centuries ago. This makes her one of the most powerful people behind the scenes in the company. But she'll enter a wrestling business not just with competition against AEW, but also a new fledgling promotion, TV show, talk show kind of thing. I've got no idea what Talking Shopomania is, but I'm excited as Sportskeeda is reporting the Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson project will debut on August the 1st with the recently released from WWE and recently jacked Heath Slater. Gallows and Anderson have signed lucrative deals with Impact Wrestling that will also allow them to wrestle for New Japan. Considering that Slater will be on their inaugural Talking Shopper Mania show, which Pro Wrestling Sheet claims is also part of their deal with Impact, that's the biggest tease yet that Slater will also be turning up on July 18th's Slammiversary. Gallows himself has teased his Impact move on Twitter, posting a photo of him wearing the promotion's merch while also looking jacked. Because some people evidently use their time in lockdown to work out and get in shape and not just play Super Mario Odyssey and eat carrot cake. But I did finally beat the Darker Side challenge last night, so who's winning really? And finally, Roman Reigns has tweeted he might be the most important Royal Rumble competitor of all time. Before you start complaining, just think about the last 5 years. What do you think about Roman's claim? Let me know in the comments down below because I'll be replying, ooh ah, from out of nowhere. Several top WWE stars have given Vince McMahon an ultimatum. Click the video on the right to find out what happened. And should WWE bring Heath Slater back? Click the video beneath that to watch me and Luke review this week's Raw. If you like what we're doing, you can follow us on Twitter at WrestleTalk_TV and me at Ollie Davis. That was wrestling.